we need to decide which factors we want to use for matching. And in this case, the directed acyclic graphs can be very helpful. So let's take a look at some examples. Here we're looking at the association between smoking and cancer. And age may be a confounder. In this case, age is a strong risk factor for the disease. Would this be a good or bad matching? This is a good matching. These are the type of factors that you want to match on if you are concerned about them. How about this case? The matching factor is only a risk factor for the disease and is not associated with the exposure. Not really, this is not very helpful because it wouldn't really do much. Probably you do not get any difference in the results, whether you match or not. So you're just spending energy and time to match on a factor that you're really not interested in. How about you're interested in estimating the effect of the matching factor on the disease? So you're also interested in knowing whether age has an effect. This was not a really good idea. Once you match on a factor, you can never really study it again. What if the matching factor is weakly associated with the disease, but strongly associated with the exposure, which in this case is smoking? This will not be a good idea because we are simply making the controls more similar to the cases. And the stronger the association between the matching factor and the exposure, the stronger the bias we may see in the selection bias, because now we're making the cases and controls more similar to each other. What about in this case? The matching factor is only associated with the exposure. So here it would be an overmatching where we are really, only introducing bias where none might have not existed before. So this would be a very bad idea. What about if the matching factor is your exposure? This is an awful idea. What about if the matching factor is not associated with exposure or the disease? Not a good idea, because you're matching on a factor that is not a confounder, you're only losing precision, and you're not really doing anything. You're just creating more complexity into your design and for no reason. What if the matching factor is affected by the exposure, so it is an intermediate in the path? In this case, age would be an intermediate between smoking and cancer, let's say. In this case, would you match on age? This would be an awful idea, because now we can no longer study even the association between smoking and cancer. If the matching variable is along the causal pathway between the disease and exposure, then matching will contribute bias that cannot be removed in the analysis. So this would be another type of overmatching. Another type of overmatching would be matching on a variable that is associated with the exposure and not the disease. So now let's say you want to do a case control study of a genetic risk factor, which is shown here to the left, the DNA, for a cancer that occurs in elderly. Would you match on age in this case? Hit the pause button, and when you're ready, start again. Well, age is not associated with the DNA, we have the DNA that we have regardless of our age. So you might think that there is no age is not a confounder and we don't need to adjust for it. However, when we're thinking about population level, we're not thinking of individuals. And so if you have a not such a good gene, like in this case, you might be more likely to die, which is here. Now, you're also, as you get older, you're more likely to die. So now we have an association, and death will change the pool of genes. That means that individuals that survive will have a different pool of genes than those who die. Especially if the gene is deadly, the people who survive will actually have genes that are more protective. So in this case, we do have an association. It may not be a direct association, but there is an association between age and the DNA. So in this case, we might want to match. And again, we want to match not to control for confounding, but to increase precision. So in this case, if we thought that controls would be much younger than the cases, then we might want to consider matching.